Welcome everyone to another episode of Slasher Scotty. I am your host, Scotty McCoy, and boy, do I have a surprise for you. I have on Zoom with me right now. I'm not gonna tell you right now. How about you take a look at this video package, and then I'll see you back here with my guest live on Zoom. See you soon. That's right, everyone. My guest is a professional wrestler, Sin Bodhi, formerly known as in the WWE as Kizarny. How you doing, Sin?
I'm pretty good. Thank you for having me, man.
That's good. I'm glad to have you. So I have a couple questions for you. The first one I have for you is, how did you get your start into professional wrestling?
I originally trained with Ron Hutchinson. He was the guy that trained Edge and Christian, and the famous story, is exactly that. Edge won a essay contest to train for free with Ron Hutchinson right in high school. Again, pardon me for the pop-ups. I'm too stupid to know how to turn off my notification. So
No problem.
again, as I was telling you before we got on here, surround me by ropes and turnbuckles. I have a pretty good idea what I'm doing. But in life, or especially with technology, maybe not so much. So,
Not a problem.
So Edge, Adam, he trained first, and then Jay and I, Christian and I, we thought to join whether we got into college or not. And then I got in and Jay didn't. So Jay went and trained first. And then I couldn't stand college. I hated it. And then about 2 years after that, I went and started training. But they were already they just started hitting the road as I was starting to train. Okay. So they were sort of they were my seniors in that respect. And and that's kind of how it started. And then soon after that, I just hit the road, never looked back. I lived in my car quite a bit. Stayed at couch surfed and all that jazz. Right. I just got myself to shows around the world. I was a bigger guy, and I looked whatever look I had at the time. I always tried to look fairly interesting.
Right.
So I was a bigger, scarier dude. So even though I was green and wet behind the ears, however you want to say it, being a little bit bigger, being a little flashier looking, and just being hungry to show up at shows. They would, promoters would put me in with, top old school 80s dudes and whatever, because it was a lot more cost effective for them to book, some cheap indie brand new guy against some more expensive famous 80s guy. Right. That way they'd have to rent two expensive 80s guys. And I didn't look like I was a glass jaw getting fed to Kamala or Hacksaw Jim Duggan or Bundy or the Road Warriors or whomever. I was just it was perfectly acceptable to go, okay, this guy looks mean or whatever. You can take those bumps. You can take those bumps well. You can realistic, heat on these guys. And then when the time is right, as the good guys win and right off into the sunset. So that got me a ton of experience. Like, I want to say, like, I'm not picking any fights or anything. I'm not saying it's cocky or anything, but I just think just factually, and again, I don't have any stat sheet in front of me. I'm just spitballing here, but pound for pound, I think from just about any major company, as far as like the young contemporary stars, I'm not talking about old stars. I just mean like the younger guys and girls that are on Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AEW, Impact. For the most part, I want to say, in any one of those given locker rooms, I've probably wrestled more 80s talent accumulatively than all those, each of those locker rooms separately combined. So like, it's not a stat. It's just it's a estimation. With that, if you know what I mean. Like I know, like somebody like Ziggler, for instance, has wrestled so many great stars over the years, but I don't know how many Road Warriors or Bundys or Lawlers or Steiner Brothers or Kamalas and Missing Links and so forth that he has been in the ring with. Times that whole locker room, times the SmackDown locker room, times the NXT locker room, times the AEW Impact. so forth, so
Mhm.
forth. So with that, I hold that as a humble trophy where like that's so many lost art secrets. And
Mhm.
yeah, so I'm kind of this walking this two-legged, very, very good looking portable hard drive of old school wrestling knowledge, comboed with a very open-minded Jeet Kune Do view on modern day stuff. So I like to think of
Right.
it as stringing old school stuff with new school stuff, trying to make something interesting and unique.
Right. That makes sense. So how did you end up working for the WWE and how was Vince McMahon as a boss?
I got along great with Vince.
Okay.
Uh, Never had a problem with Vince. He
Awesome.
liked me. I liked him. And I think the stuff was short lived, not because of anything with me and him. I think, again, I never got any closure to this day. And I'm in good standing with WWE to this day,
Hmm.
but I never got any definitive reason. I don't know that most people do. It's just
Hmm.
sort of like breaking up with somebody and you don't have any closure, but then you
Hmm.
go on and you date other people and you live and you learn and you have wisdom and
Right.
so forth. So like, I mean, I've been back and I've coached for them, so they must find me useful in some way. If they would, they're
Right.
not going to have to waste their time. So, but it just, I think maybe it was just wrong time, wrong era. I've
Right.
had some people say, man, I wish you were doing now what you did then, or I wish you were doing what you're doing now. I wish you did it then or whatever. And, I don't know that they would have allowed that then, but I think they would like it now. But I think again, just I think my moment in history was sort of oddly placed. I think like
Yeah.
the developmental stuff was still sort of not no, not well received, but like it just they still didn't really know exactly what it was. I don't think,
Right.
and I think there was a lot of wrestlers that didn't like guys coming up from the developmental system. Like
Hmm.
I wasn't a developmental guy. I was hired by developmental, but I mean, I already learned how to wrestle. I'm not always
Hmm.
learning. I'm still learning, but
Right.
I didn't have to learn from scratch or anything like that. So I think, but when they perceive you as coming up as a FCW guy or something,
Hmm.
and they perceive what they perceive.
Right. Yeah. Do you think it had anything to do with like your gimmick or the politics in the locker room, or was it just like they weren't ready to have you there yet, or
I think, I mean, I've heard from some people that they weren't sure what to do with me. Like I guess when
right.
something is maybe so bizarre, and I don't know that I was overly superly bizarre then. I mean, I was bizarre, but not to the
Mhm.
not to the length where I would think like I don't know what to do with this guy. Like wrestlers have always been flashy, and wrestlers have always been
Right.
this that. So I don't know what the big whoop-de-doo leap would be. But I mean, like guys like Jake the Snake would say they don't know what to do with you. They don't know how to
Right.
you. I'm like, well, I don't need to be controlled. I don't need to be whatever. Like I'm a team
Right.
player, but it just, I mean, it's all opinions. Who knows? Again,
Right.
I've back and coached since, so they must like something. Or
Right.
else they wouldn't have me teaching their you know their new guys and girls if they didn't trust me. So
Exactly. And they did spend a lot of time like hyping your debut as well on on SmackDown with the vignettes and everything.
sure,
Um
yeah, I mean, those things cost a pretty penny too.
Yeah, exactly. So like speaking of them, obviously I thought they were amazing. Like they brought me into your character because I like the flashy carnival type characters. And I'm assuming they were fun to shoot. So how were they filmed? Was it like a real carnival? Was it a green screen or?
It was a real carnival. We shot in Pennsylvania at the World of Wonders, who I'm friends with those guys to this day, and Ward Hall, rest his soul. A lot of really great, authentic carnival folk. We did it at the World of
Okay.
Wonders, and the art direction from Vince was just get whatever you can in the can. We'll sort through it in the office. Okay, so I did a whole bunch of my usual crazy stuff, and then I think Vince was kind of like, shit, this is really aggressive. He wanted me to be a super duper babyface. It's like, I
Right.
think he's going to scare the kids. So we didn't use about 90% of what we shot on me. We used more of the B-roll of some of the other performers that were maybe less scary, a little bit more
Hmm.
sillier, or a little bit more kid friendly, if that's the right term. So what happened was you see me standing going, hey, I'm Kizarny, and then cut to like some other dude or some lady doing something, and
Right.
then come back to me. I'm like, haha, I'm Kizarny. So to me, that's like a bit heelish because I'm saying I'm putting over myself, and then I'm throwing somebody else to do the work, and then I'm coming back to reap the rewards. So to me, that's a heel. But I'm thinking he's a billionaire and I'm not. So what the fuck do I know? And I'm a little soldier and do what I'm told. Like I was always talking like Hutchinson 101 was be a good soldier.
Exactly.
If you like it or don't like it, like I love the whole idea. I wasn't, when they gave me the name, that wasn't my idea. But I chose to look like that. I'm a legitimate carnival dude. I was just trying to play the hand I was dealt the best I could. I think I did a lot of live events, like SmackDown live events and so forth. And I'm like, I wasn't the first match. I was never the curtain jerk match. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's a very important spot. But I was always stuffed somewhere in the middle of the show on a card full of Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, Undertaker, Triple H, et cetera, et cetera. So like for me to get a good response on a stacked show like that, like I'm pretty much the indie guy on this giant, road loop of live events. And by the time we would take it home, people would cheer, clap, everything. Like they were always into it. Like people were always cool. So I got a good response from, as far as like the producers were like, oh, audience, great response. Producers, easy to work with. Wrestlers, oh, he's easy to work with. So I got along with everybody. Awesome. And so I don't know. Maybe it was a budget thing. I don't know. Who knows?
Awesome. So how did the character and name of Kizarny come to be in the WWE?
The name was totally Vince. So when I had my sit down with Vince McMahon, we're shooting the shit and talking, and I'm allowed to swear on this thing. I should have asked before I dropped it.
No, that's fine. No problem.
So apologize.
No, you're fine.
So I'm talking to Vince, and so I'm a legitimate carnival dude, but I would always use the words like sideshow or circus, freak show, stuff like that. I never really used the word carnival, and this was the first time I ever kind of explained it like that because wrestling did come from the carnival, and I had heard from several little birdies that Vince liked like the freaky carnival stuff, so I used the word carnival, and then I could see like the light bulb going off, and I could see him, thinking of ideas as we were talking, and he had this giant smile on his face and all this stuff, and then I was like, okay, all right, you give me a lot to think about. All right, awesome. We'll chat about this soon. So the next day, that was at an Unforgiven pay-per-view, and so the next day at Raw, he comes over to me at the ringside, and he kind of says, "Your name's going to be Kizarny. It's Carney for Carney. Get it?" And I'm like, "Yes, sir. Sure do." And that's definitely one up from Eggman for sure. But I was going to make it work no matter what. Right. So I was flattered that he given me that opportunity. I was flattered that he put that stock in me. I was flattered for that chance to be at a company that I grew up loving as a kid, still do today. So, I mean, I don't have any ill qualms about it. Yeah, I don't think it was the most brilliant of his ideas, which he is. Right. But I mean, he'd be the first to tell you, he thought of some great ideas and some not so great ideas. So me as a worker was just going to pump as much life into that idea as I could. I'm a big boy. I'll make my bed and sleep in it. And if it wasn't what they needed at the time, then I'll definitely carry my weight with it. And I've had a lot of, it's weird. I've had so many fans on both sides of it where like, we really liked you. We thought you were doing awesome. And then have the other guys totally polar opposite. Like, oh, you fucking suck. Whatever. Like, well, I appreciate that you didn't like the character. Like it wasn't, in some ways I loved it. In some ways it wasn't my cup of tea at all. Like some cookie roulette. So my dog is starting to sell now that you're on the camera here. And, so I get that it wasn't some people's cup of tea. I get that. I totally get it. But at the same time, I think just sometimes I guess maybe fans are, hold on. You can hear me. I'm just going to grab my pooch. So
not a problem. Not a problem. Take your time.
I'm totally here. It's just gonna, instead of being Sin Bodhi, it's gonna be Sin Bodhi and Cookie. So there we go. All right, Cook.
Oh, he's so cute.
So she's
is it a boy or girl?
She is a she.
Oh, she. Oh, she is so cute.
She's very cute. She's the heel of the household. She is the fun police. The other dogs are out. I got married. Have fun. But anyway, so I get that, some people liked it and were interested to see what was going on.
Right.
I get the name was what it was. I
Mm-hmm.
get that it was certainly not some people's cup of tea. I don't think anybody really got to see enough of it to really decide if it was good or
Right.
shitty. I know I can, as we would say in the industry, I can work. There's a lot of wrestlers
Mm-hmm.
that are very great athletically, or have a neat shtick on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
But to be a worker, that's to me that's few and far between. I can fucking work.
Right.
But what you got to see of me was just not enough, and it wasn't what it needed to be. Like, I need to get a little bit of wind in my sail to show you what was going on. I can't give you a whole relationship in one night. Like, going out there with MVP it should have been the first date at the beginning of a long relationship, and just happenstance didn't take it that way, but as far as, like, I would just say for fans that were cool with it, thank you very much. For fans that were not cool with it, hey, that's cool, man. What'd you ever do, motherfucker?
Exactly.
You ever step foot in the WWE ring? You ever make it that far? So
right. And it's a really hard profession to do. And it's not even just physically, but the mental aspect of it is excruciating.
Sure. I've even had other fans come over and kind of giggle, be like, hey, some of those fans that didn't like you, they'd be the same guys knocking their knees together asking for your autograph at an airport.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, I appreciate, trolls being trolls. I get it. Do what you need to do to back yourself, or you could just enjoy this and just take it for what it is. It's a body slam soap opera. Like, we're busting asses to entertain people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, like, every wrestler, like him or hate him or him or her, whomever. Yep. I've spent Christmases away from families, birthdays away from families. I've missed so much stuff. Now I've gotten to do so many great things, seen so many wonderful things, and meet wonderful people. But this business has really kept me away from my family quite a lot, especially my parents. So we do pay those dues, that a lot of people don't realize. Like, if you live in Boston and your mom lives down the street and your grandma lives down the other street and your work is 2 seconds away, and your wife is at home and your husband is at home and your cat and your dog are at home, everything is within a couple mile radius. Count yourself lucky, because my parents are 60 hours that way. My brother is 25 hours that way.
That's crazy.
A couple of my best pals are 50 hours that way. So I live with my wife and my stepdaughter. And I've learned to really, like, make sure that, like, the long distance thing has been my parents and I have is like, you guys okay? Everything good? Yes. Are you okay? Yeah. Okay, cool. So we love each other. We check on each other, but like, we don't get to hug each other every day or every week like people do. I don't think people realize that's the case for a lot of performers. And those people will probably also fire back. Well, it's your choice. It is our choice for sure. But the trade-off is we get to have some fun on this planet. Like, we get to live like cowboys.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know. Like, I'm a hardworking person, and, like, blood, sweat, and tears for years and years and years.
Yeah.
But I don't know, and I can work super hard, like in the gym and the wrestling ring and sport and travel and all that travel. Like, the wrestlers will joke and say, I wrestle for free. You're just paying for the other 20 and a half hours. Get me to Australia, Germany, Mexico, wherever I'm, Canada, US, wherever I'm going, but as far as, like, a real life, like, for lack of a better term, a real life job, I think I've been so lucky to be a nomad for so long. So postal in a week. If you saddled me into a retail spot or factory spot, I think I'm just too much of a cowboy to do that. Like, I remember before I was, and this was before I even wrestled ever. I remember a little teeny bopper job. A guy reminded me of it the other day. I hadn't spoken with him in years, and he caught up with me on Facebook. A guy from my hometown. He's like, "Hey, you remember me from Al's restaurant, where I was like a waiter for 10 minutes?" And I remember, and I'm not a confrontational person. I'm not at all. I truly am not. And even back then, a young kid, I remember this customer was just being a dick. And he wanted this, and he wanted that. I remember vividly. He wanted this, and he changed his mind. He wanted this. He's like, give me such grief. And I remember, just without even thinking about it, it just came out of my face. I just remember saying, "Shut the fuck up and eat your coleslaw." And the manager walked by and was like, "Get over here, Nick. You're fired." Whatever. I'm like, fine, good. good riddance. And yeah, just like I don't know how well I do in real life, you know. So
Right.
I think you know, putting on that war paint and jumping around and being a silly bastard for people to giggle at, cheer at, whatever they want to do. That's sort of what I'm put on the planet to do.
And the thing is, you get to do two of the best things in the world. You get to do, of course, the sports part of things and the entertainment part of things. So you get to do, you know, the acting and also the wrestling. Like it must be a lot of fun, you know. And then you put a show on, like it's amazing. Like it's literally amazing.
Oh, dude. I mean, as the old adage goes, you know, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Right. That's my dad always said that. He said that's why like I went to college. He's like, go to college for something you're gonna love to do, because when you do it, when you graduate and you get a job in that field, it's not like you're going to work. It's like you're going, you know, doing something that you love to do and you're getting paid to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, again, I can bust my ass. Like, I mean, I get up, you know, I do some kind of chores around the house. Like me and my wife basically rescue animals. So we've got a bunch of dogs, cats,
nice,
tortoises, snakes, chickens, all sorts of weirds. Me, I have, you know, biggest critter in the house, you know, do all that stuff. I'll do these. So I literally just about 2 minutes before I logged on with you, I just finished my Snake Pit Facebook Live, which is like, we can talk about that too if you want. So ever since the beginning of these like COVID lockdowns, the quarantine stuff, I turned basically my student page, which like, you know, there's 20, 30 people on there to know like, hey, classes are at such and such time. Ring crew is here, flyering for shows is there, you know, whatever, which is more for information. And so I decided to open up that page to wrestlers, wrestling students, and anybody wrestling industry. And you know, just drop knowledge and have other coaches come on, like Dr. Tom or Gangrel, Al Snow, Tyson Dukes. The list goes on and on and on.
Right.
And it was, of course, it was there to drop knowledge for sure, because I think, you know, there's a lot of very athletic guys and girls out there, but I think psychologically there's a lot of blind leading the blind, because like Undertaker was mentioned on that Joe Rogan podcast, like everybody got old at the same time, and there was not a bridge to really you know, divulge some of that information, like pass down a lot of that information.
Right.
So that's exactly what we do on this page, and is useful. And I think is as cool of a notion as that is, my overriding purpose to do that daily. I want to say I've maybe missed a handful of days in this like 9 months, whatever, like half a handful of days tops. You know, 5-6 days. But that's how many fingers I got. But like my overriding thing was just to distract people while they were crawling the walls during this fucking COVID lockdown and stuff.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you how many messages I got from people saying, man, you really saved my sanity. Like I would look forward to you dialing in every time, every noon, whatever. And
that's awesome.
When I do get to shows, like again, before COVID, I was wrestling 2-3 times a week all over the world.
Right.
And now this COVID stuff has robbed me of about 90% of my income. So that's why I spend time, you know, doing little match reviews for a couple bucks, or I customize those little toys and stuff like that, and all this stuff. But I can't tell you how many times I would get to shows, and then I have people that I never met before came over. Hey, nice to see you, coach, or nice to meet you, coach, or hey, thanks for telling me about this thing. I'm like, I don't remember talking to this person. They're talking about online. You know, like they're like, I've been studying you religiously since this 9 months or whatever. Right? I dialed in 6 months ago when I found out about it, and I've been locked ever since. So I just, I got to do that for that many people. Like, I'll take that. Thank you.
Right.
So that validates some of that hard work and passion and stuff. And really don't want anything back from it except for just to, you know, for you to be passionate as well. Like I would tell young guys that, you know, if I'm going to throw some young rookies in the car to go to a show, like a little road trip, like, sure, can I give you some gas? I'm like, no, you cannot give me any gas money. Sure, can I buy you some food? No, you certainly can. In fact, I'll probably do the buying of the food. It's the old guy's prerogative to do that. And like, well, what can we do? I'm like, well, when you're the really, 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 really good looking old timer and you put some rookies in your car, then you can like, okay, you know, so that's how that would go. So
right. And it's funny that when you said about Vince mentioning about the name Kizarny, like, and then you said it in like kind of like his voice, it's like I could so picture Vince coming up with that name. That is such a Vince name.
That's totally was Vince name. So okay. I'm like, all right, here we go. Again, just like Taker. I wasn't Eggman. You know, I'm
Right.
like Taker's name. At least Taker's name is super cool.
Right.
Like, and two, when I was a kid, when I first heard the name Undertaker, I didn't really know what an Undertaker was. I was that young.
Right.
Like what? Like what? And then when I saw him, and then when I realized what it was, I'm like, that's super cool. You know, so
Right.
like I could latch onto it as a kid, as I'm sure so did so many. That's why he's still
Right.
tested.
Yep. That same with me. My first Undertaker, my first ever wrestling show that I watched like on TV was the very first Raw in 1993, and I remember the very first main event was Undertaker versus Damien Demento.
Right.
And
Yes.
that it's just seeing Undertaker coming out. Oh my gosh, it was freaky. Like it scared me. It gave me nightmares. I was 3 years old though, but
I'm picking up what you're putting down. I got you, dude. I
yep.
got you. I felt the same. I remember watching. Was it a Royal Rumble? I think it was when he debuted with he did that. Was it 6-man or 8-man tag or whatever? Beating up
Survivor Series.
Survivor Series. Thank you.
Yep.
And he's beating up like Coco and Dusty and all these guys. I'm
Yep.
like, what's going on? My
Yep.
mind was blown. I'm like, who's this monster? I remember thinking, who's going to stop this guy? What is anybody going to do? Like everybody's going to run
Right.
for the world, you know. Again, I couldn't tell you how old I was, but I was pretty damn young.
Right.
But my little kid brain was just painting all these pictures and scenarios. What are these wrestlers going to do? What's Hulk Hogan going to do? What are all these guys going to do? I remember Roddy Piper on commentary going, look at the ham hocks on that guy. You know? And then we're thinking, oh my God, Roddy Piper's one of the coolest dudes in the galaxy. If Roddy Piper sweat this cat, what's Hulk Hogan going to do? What's all these other dudes going to do? You know, so I think the magic of wrestling is not in the suplexes or the hammerlocks or dives or eye gouges. I think it's in that emotional story. I think it's in it's in the details. It's not it's how. So I think power to all these very cool moves. I'm not that old timey guy that's going to shit on all these flippy floppy moves. I'm not that guy. I think all these cool moves are great, but I think whatever it's going to take, whether it's a knuckle sandwich or a Canadian destroyer, I think if all the devil of the details is on point, then the story's going to play out well, and everybody understands their characters, their positioning,
Exactly.
Not to mention their physical timing and ring presence, and no wasted motion, and all these little jargon and things I could get into. I think all those details. I think it facilitates, the fans. Like so. Okay, I'm trying to put this articulately. If the wrestlers, sports entertainers, workers, whatever you want to call them, if they're doing their jobs right, it evokes not just emotion, but it evokes questions, which is like, what next? What's going to happen? If this happened, what's going to happen now? Like Randy Orton's got Drew McIntyre down now. Well, what is he going to do now? Is he going to go out of the ring? Is he going to get something? Is he going to do this? Is he going to light this cat on fire? What the hell what's he going to do? So those questions, those are organic questions. You were just, as Dusty Rhodes used to tell us all the time, baby, we'll fill you the whole seat, but you're only going to need the edge, Daddy. So like it pulls people, like as you can see me and I know we're going to do this for audio, but I know you're recording the video. So like if you're interested, you literally move forward. You're like, whoa, I got to see what is this. Or if you are disinterested, you lean back, you maybe cross your arms, and so forth. That's not wrestling psychology. That is psychology applied to wrestling. So if you can get the fans going, he's going to definitely get this. Definitely, if you can bring those pictures inside their brains, let alone what you're doing in the ring, that's the stuff of a worker. That is the stuff.
So how true is it that because I heard obviously you hear dirt sheets and all that, and you don't know what to believe out of all that. So how true is it that Vince doesn't like the term wrestler or wrestling?
So I mean, it's pretty commonplace that he doesn't like those terms, but I think he's just trying to protect creation that he is marketed. It's not that he doesn't like wrestling or wrestling. I think he's just trying to pivot his company as an entertainment company, which is perfectly prerogative. Fine.
Exactly. I mean, he changed the world of not wrestling, but sports entertainment. Like he made, professional wrestling into this, $1 billion,
Sure.
sports entertainment spectacle, like, you know. So I could 100% see that. It's just you hear so many different dirt sheets and you don't know what to believe because one article saying this thing, another article saying that thing, and you know, you don't know which is the right thing to believe.
Well, if you look at other companies that are not affiliated and they have brilliant names that don't even have wrestling, you know, like Ring of Honor. What a
Right.
great name. It doesn't say wrestling,
Right.
you know, or now, you know, NXT belongs to Vince, but I
Yeah.
mean, it doesn't say wrestling.
Right.
Even though weirdly, like Ring of Honor and NXT are kind of more of the wrestlerly companies. Like,
Right.
you know, they're the ones that do the most wrestling as
Right.
opposed to the most sports entertaining. And I'm not condescending or downplaying
Right.
Raw or SmackDown or Impact or anything else. I'm just saying that's how they're sort of positioned. In my humble opinion, like I love all those companies. I love all of wrestling,
Right.
from lucha libre to hardcore to funny
Mhm.
stuff, catch as catch can, European wrestling to old timey wrestling, sports entertainment to Memphis Walk and Talk to all the
Right.
Witch Monkeys, all this, all of it. I love it. You know, I just think it's like loving music. You know, just because
Right.
I love music doesn't mean I just have to listen to rap music or country music or heavy metal music.
Mhm.
I love music.
Right.
And even though there might be a genre of music I would gravitate to, like my guilty pleasure of music would be Southern rock and glam rock. But I
Mhm.
would rather listen to awesome rap or awesome country music or awesome classical music or awesome
Yes.
polka music than shitty Southern rock or shitty glam rock. So
Right.
I like, you know, I like wrestling and there's certain styles I might like more, but
Right.
it's all, you know,
But
a
they're
lot.
all, yeah, exactly.
You know what I
So,
mean?
is there any upcoming events that you'll be competing at? Obviously you wrestle on the indies as Sin Bodhi.
Yes.
Are you signed to any major promotions or is there any events that you'll be competing at despite the pandemic?
I'll be back at OVW pretty soon. I will be at Devotion Wrestling pretty soon. I'm just waiting for my booking dates.
Okay.
Was it next week or the week after? I will be February 5th and 6th. I'll be
Mhm.
February 5th. I will be at Southern Honor Wrestling in Atlanta, Georgia area.
Okay.
And the next day in Hazel Green, Alabama, I will be at Rocket City. And
Mhm.
that's Saturday, February 6th. Yeah. So the 5th and
Right.
6th. And so if you go to either of those sites, Rocket City, or if you go to Southern Honor, you'll see all
Okay.
that info there. If you
Awesome.
go to any of my social media, it's all Sin Bodhi, SINNBODHI. That's my Facebook,
Awesome.
my Twitter, my Instagram.
Cool.
I'll always have like the show info posted. I'm doing some online. I've been doing online seminars for uh, Italian Wrestling Association, so I'll be doing
Okay.
a Zoom seminar for them on Wednesday. Sorry, this Wednesday.
Mhm.
And I teach at the FSW school, the Snake Pit in Las Vegas here, Mondays and
Okay.
Tuesdays. So you can go online and you can see, you know, my stuff on the Snake Pit. You can also go on to FSW and see that. Or my YouTube channel is Freak Show Wrestling, and you
Okay.
can see a lot of the stuff that I did during the pandemic. Like I did those
Right.
Syndiculousness episodes, which is sort of playful road stories. Like as the
Right.
wrestlers would say, we can't tell the good stories. You know
Right.
that will only arrive at arrests and divorces. So we cannot tell the good stories. But there's some pretty silly, playful stories.
Right.
All just when I was thinking of what stories I should say, I would always kind of run it by my wife. She's sort of like the voice of reason, you know. She's the brains of the operation, no doubt. And I'm like, what about this? She's like, oh, you can't tell that. I'm like, okay, well, what do you think about this one? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, fine, you can tell that. Okay. Well, what about, this one sounds a little weird, or this is,
Nice.
you know, this is maybe not for the ages. You know, this story didn't age well. You know, like something we would
Right.
have funny 5 years ago. Like, oh, you can't say that now. You know,
Right.
so like, okay, and also to just with everybody being so heightened in the state of the world right now, and
Mhm.
everybody's so, I guess heightened is just really the best word, you know. So I really wanted to make sure those stories were playful and silly. Like again, Undertaker, you know, one of my idols, one of the greatest wrestlers in
Right.
the galaxy, and look how many people are, you know, squawking about what he said. So I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure while we were all stuck like rats in cages during all this quarantine stuff, just crawling the walls, looking for any reason to
Mhm.
flare up and freak out. I wanted to make sure these stories were there to make people giggle and never
Right.
them off or upset them or anything like that. It was
Mhm.
there to entertain. And same, like if you're a student or a wrestler or an industry person and you're on that snake pit and I'm doing a Q&A or a lecture or a match breakdown, like I kind of reinforce, like, hey, I'm not condescending, I'm not demeaning anything, I'm just telling you what I think, so it might just broaden your scope.
Right.
Like, who wants to hear, like, I'm not going to say, if I'm watching your wrestling match, I'm never going to be that coach that says, oh, that was the shits, just fucking go jump off a cliff. I'm not that guy. I'm always going to say stuff like, hey, you can maybe get more mileage if you put that here, did a little bit more of this, a little bit less of this. Why don't you try to think about this and do just my humble opinion, and again, because nobody wants to look at themselves and go, yeah, I suck. Nobody wants to do that. I think in this modern day landscape, I don't know that people are capable of doing that. I think they all think they're superheroes or something. I don't know. So to burst anybody's bubble is certainly not my intention. My intention is to make you, the performer, better. Like, you're dialing in to hear these lectures to get good, solid information.
Exactly.
And it's my responsibility and my privilege to give you that information. So I'm not going to sit here and just, whoa, back in my day, blah, 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 and just toot my own horn and be an asshole. Like, that's not my MO at all.
Exactly.
Like, I'm never going to be old dog, new tricks. I'm always going to be progressive. But at the same time, I'm going to know what works and what doesn't work, in my opinion. Like, I might be stubborn sometimes, but I'm open-minded. Like, you can convince me quickly, or it can be an uphill battle, but I will hear you. And at the end of the day, if I feel that I think I'm going to stick to this way, or yeah, you're totally right, or hey, maybe we can meet in the middle and we have this new third idea or some such. So if we all kind of just keep a little bit of an open mind and hear each other, but again, I was just saying on the snake pit before I logged off to get on to here with you, like, if you're having a conversation, I can have a conversation with whomever, and we can exchange ideas that can be radically different.
Exactly.
We hear each other. We can debate. We can even get annoyed and upset and angry. But if we consistently hear each other, we might both walk away from that conversation better for it.
Yeah.
Both of us better educated, both of us more empathetic and sympathetic and understanding. But if we just, one person just says, I'm right and I can't hear anything else, that's a dangerous person to have a conversation with, because it's not a conversation.
Exactly.
So I just think, and I don't mean to sound too artsy fartsy, or I'm certainly want to talk about politics. I'm not going to incriminate myself online talking about anything one way or another, because you say anything about anything and somebody's going to get upset.
Yes.
So I just hypothetically try to apply that as like, hear each other, Well, here, if he says this and this, no, let's hear everything, and then we can arrive at certain things. Like,
exactly.
Put that weird closed-minded disclaimer. Yeah, I'll listen to anybody as long as it's what I want to hear. Like, that's not a conversation.
No, exactly. It's not.
And so I certainly don't want to, get into, the state of the world or anything. I'm just applying the psychology of the world to wrestling.
Right.
So, an industry term is a bad word in industry term is a rest hold. Like, wrestlers will say, I don't like the rest hold, whatever. Or wrestlers will say, hey, we'll use a rest hold. Like, those young guys that are using that term, they're using it incorrectly, where rest hold isn't for lazy wrestlers to be lazy and sit there in a hold. A rest hold is to take a beat, take a moment to let the fans rest. What that means is to let the fans just absorb what's going on for a second and get geared up for something that's on the horizon.
Right.
So that way, whether it's a mental, just a reboot, so they can just get their mental second wind or third wind or whatever, or it's, I think I can tell something cool is going to happen. I'm going to gift this or talk that or something, so the modern, with all the fans having a little fancy speak and spell with a window of every bit of knowledge in the world in their palms is a relatively new thing for not just wrestling, but for the world,
Right.
We've only been here for like a decade tops, right?
Yep.
So, to give fans that moment to tweet something, TikTok something, Instagram something, whatever, you're finding moments, little beats for them to breathe. Those are the rest moments. So that's why you see more wrestlers these days do something almost in duplicate or triplicate because, I really want to see that. Oh, I missed that first one, but I can do the second one or whatever,
Right.
Like, I can do two of them because he does one. He always does two, like for instance, I don't usually do this, but this is the first silly example I can think of. Like if I do that invisible choke slam where I get my guy down and then I grab my own gizzard and I jump up and I just basically.
Right. Oh, there you go.
Person. Sorry, that was my wife was actually calling me. I just C-blocked her right there. It's just because I was doing this thing. So, but yeah, so I might. Again, I don't usually do this. Now I'm thinking about maybe I should, but I don't. I usually just do one. So that way, if I was to do two, then they can TikTok that or something. So maybe next time I wrestle, I'm going to do two. Just so they go, oh, he's got to do it again. Like. Or sometimes if as we call it, we would say setting the table. So educate the thing. Hey, if we do this, we set this thing up. This is probably what's coming. So if you do that, usually a bad guy will do that and then make a mistake with the same thing on because fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So the baby face isn't going to good guys fall for the same shenanigans. And then that's usually where the bad guy crashes and burns because he gets too cocky and he, whatever. But you can see him setting the table the same way, so the fans can whip out their phones, TikTok or tweet or Instagram, or whatever. So there's wrestling is evolving and there is different.
Yes.
Whether you jump on it or you fight it, you can fight evolution or you can by it. Like
exactly.
There's some big creatures. There's some big scary creatures that did not stand the test of time evolution wise.
Right.
And then there's funny old tortoises and sea turtles and whatever. I got a 100-pound tortoise in my backyard that has stood the test of evolution. I mean, tortoises have been around since the dinosaurs, so he must be doing something right. His peeps are doing something right. So it's a matter of figuring out how to evolve, how to do proper.
Exactly. Right. So we know that the life of a professional wrestler, as we spoke of earlier, is obviously the traveling. Do you have any road stories from your time as a professional wrestler, whether it's on the Indies, WWE, or whatever, that you'd like to tell everyone about?
Oh boy, man, there's just so many. Boy, can you maybe point me down a rabbit hole? Give me a direction that you want me to go on. Like, give me a wrestler. I could probably 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon myself with just about whomever. Just for me to think about that, I'm gonna like literally, I don't know, crash my brain system and just I'm trying to input too much information. I'm just gonna fall over right here on your podcast. Okay, a silly one. I never told this on Facebook. I'll tell this silly one because Jake hates when you tell silly stories about him, even though he loves it and he hates it all at the same time.
Right.
If you go on the syndiculousness episodes, not sure which episode it was. I only think I did 7 or 8 or something.
Okay.
There's one that says Jake the Squirrel Roberts. So if you guys want to hear that, go check that out. It's on YouTube. Wrestling channel, syndiculousness episode, whatever. Just it should be in the title. But another Jake story was one night, him and I were working for Jim Rose, who is basically like the Vince McMahon of sideshows. And it would, on paper, have been a fun tour, but Jim and Jake hated each other because they're both alpha, big rock stars, and so they're always stepping on each other's junk, metaphorically, and they're just pissing each other, just finding ways to piss each other off. And so I really was playing babysitter for the most part. So it was just like, it would have been fun if I didn't have to do that. And so Jake and I were sharing a hotel room. And I remember, I don't know what the heck we ate, but I did some really bad things in the bathroom. Okay. Left it in the toilet. And then I closed the lid and I walked out of the bathroom like, holy gee, Jake, you got to see the size of the spider behind the back of the toilet. He's like, brother, I got to see you. And then stick his head down beside the toilet. He's like, you motherfucker. You got me, brother. So, I don't know that I've ever told that story before. It just sort of kind of creeped into my head. It's like
that's funny. I can picture Jake Roberts saying that.
We would always do dumb things like that to each other. Like we have so many stupid things like that.
Nice.
But, we did a this isn't necessarily funny, but just you'd have to the length, the duration of this joke is where it was fun. It doesn't really play well to tell it, but like he asked me to do this show for a buddy of his in Denver. And we were just going to drive from Vegas to Denver together. Now, whoever the promoter, I can't remember the name of the promoter, but he obviously had to be really good friends with Jake, because Jake's not getting in a car doing a 12-hour ride for nobody. Right. So for us to drive together to do this for his buddy, he must have had some good rapport. And like Jake's one of my best pals, so I know what kind of, he'll bend over backwards for you if he's your buddy. Right. So I'm looking at the little GPS that's telling us how far to get, and he's answering to get home. And I kid you not a minute or two, maybe 3 minutes tops would go by where he would look and see, and we'd read the mileage and read how long. It was like, 700 miles to go, going at a speed of 78 miles per hour. The temperature is 62 degrees outside. He would do that like every fucking 1 or 2 or 3 minutes for about 12 hours straight. Like he's just trying to drive me fucking bonkers.
Right. And
he's just giggling the whole, like he's like a 6'6", 6'7" giant little kid, just kind of pulling your proverbial pigtails, just getting a rise out of you, So that's how we were out. We just keep each other out.
Nice.
I think that's what we got along. Still to this day, we're super good buddies. I think we just know how to make each other laugh. I think in today's day and age, that's super important.
Right. So before I ask the last question, I just wanted to ask you, obviously, like my podcast was mainly directed towards horror actors. That's where I started at and everything. And I'm branching out into entertainment. I'm a huge professional wrestling fan, been so since the 90s, and obviously, into musicians and authors and all that. But I was wondering, do you think maybe you can help me get some other wrestlers, like even Jake Roberts or other athletes and wrestlers to interview as well?
Well, I can ask. No guarantees, but I can ask him.
Yeah, that's all. That's all I ask. Yeah,
he's not a fan of horror movies and stuff. Like, I mean, he thinks they look neat at a glimpse, but he's not sitting around the couch watching horror movies. I mean, he's a football and a Law and Order guy.
Right,
and a marathon or a Law and Order marathon, he's your guy. Right. But horror movies, not so much. So
that my dad even mentioned to me, he's like, oh, he said you started Slasher Scotty as a podcast to get like to interview all the actors that you saw in the movies growing up, the 80s slashers and that. And he's like, now you want to interview all these wrestlers, and now they're thinking it's the slasher movie podcast.
I can tell you this about Jake and horror movies. This is how I can kind of do the little 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon and tie it in, especially if we're wrapping it up. We did a horror convention together. Right. I want to say it was in Charlotte. This was a few years ago now. I want to say I still had like long hair, like I didn't shave my head for Locks of Love yet. I still had long hair, so it was quite a while ago. And so we're sitting there, and there's all sorts of dudes like Bruce Campbell and like Clive Barker and all these people around and stuff. I remember Clive Barker gave me like a T-shirt, which I thought was pretty cool. And Groovy Bruce was pretty cool, all this stuff. Right. And I was drawing, like, you can't sell anything next to Jake. Like, I just have to handle for Jake, because if you're just trying to peddle Kizarny pictures sitting next to Jake Roberts, so he doesn't want to count cash and whatever. He's got these big giant gorilla paws. He, can't pick up anything with his sausage fingers. So I'm counting the cash and doing all that stuff for him. I got eyesight, he's got eyesight, all that jazz. So I'm counting money, doing all that stuff. So what he had me do was I can draw half decently. So I was drawing like Jake the Snake caricatures and cartoons for people, and I drew like sort of like an Eve with the apple and the snake, and Jake in like the Garden of Eden all together. And so sitting like next to us, like the next table over, the next signing guest was Lita Ford for some reason. I mean, I guess she's a heavy metal chick, but I guess she has as much to do with horror movies as me and Jake the Snake do. So like whatever. And so I think Jake was trying to find a way to sort of like kind of cozy up to her or whatever. She was like, brother, look at my when I imitate Jake, I just call everybody brother. Like he goes up to Lita Ford, like, hey brother, hey, my buddy just drew a picture of us, brother. You want to sign it? So he's got it in his house somewhere. He's got it hanging, and it's a picture that I drew of Jake with a snake in the Garden of Eden with, basically a half naked or a naked wrapped in the snake and leaves and apple Eve, And so it's signed by Sin Bodhi, Kizarny, Jake the Snake Roberts, and Lita Ford.
Nice.
Whatever happened, I don't know. That's a question you could ask Jake. I don't know. Whatever happened, I don't know. Not my business. But
Yeah, nice. Yeah, definitely. Even if you can ask him, or if you have anybody else, like I would love to talk, reminisce and talk professional wrestling, the careers and everything like that, kind of like we did with you and that. And I think that I love professional wrestling, and obviously I idolize those guys all, growing up as well. So it'd be an honor to, talk to them and, share in their careers. I think that'd be cool.
Well, I'll be your booking guy. You could just pay me $1 billion to be your booking agent.
Sounds good.
There's how my carny brain works. Okay, so
sounds good. Thank you. So the last question is basically what we talked about earlier. Just kind of where can our viewers and listeners find you at? Any websites, social media, anything you want to promote? Anything else you want to promote? Any projects or anything?
Yeah. So I teach at the FSW in Las Vegas. So if you want to actually get into the ring with me, just find FSW Future Stars of Wrestling on Facebook.
Right.
As far as my social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram is Sin Bodhi, SINNBODHI.
Mm-hmm.
And then also too, my YouTube channel is Freak Show Wrestling. Okay. And that's really more like my matches, promos, and just weird other kind of one-offs like like those Syndiculousness episodes, or I've done some cinematic matches. We did that Race from the Pit, or the Wheel of Misfortune, just stuff like, or the Jake actually was the comedic guest referee in what we did, the anti-gravity match with Techno Destructive. Awesome. So with the fancy green screen technology of modern day, Planet Earth, we have the ring like turning on its side and hanging upside down like the anti-gravity thing and stuff. So it's pretty fun. It's pretty ridiculous.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so just Sin Bodhi on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter is where you can find me. I'm not a hard clown to find. So
right. Awesome. Sounds good. I thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, whenever I'm doing seminars, wrestling shows, selling those little, I refurbished those LJNs from like when I was a kid and stuff. So any of that kind of stuff, or selling T-shirts or Pigs Mask or merch, whatever stuff I have.
Right.
It's all on there. So I'm an easy kind to find.
Awesome. Well, I thank you so much for your time, Sin, and I truly appreciate it. And I've been a fan of yours. I followed you on the Indies, and I seen you in the WWE. Obviously, I loved the Kizarny gimmick. I mean, I thought it was really clever. It was different, and I liked that. I mean, I've always been fascinated by carnivals and circuses and all that different stuff. So it was cool to see something like that come to life, in that capacity, which is really cool.
Thank you very much.
Yep, not a problem. And I thank you again. And you have a great rest of your day, and you stay safe.
You too, my friend. And I will tell everybody listening: be safe, be smart, be kind.
Take care. Thank you. You too. Bye.